Happy, happy. Joy, joy. Here's your look at the new Super 7, the Ren and Stimpy show, Stimpy. He's as simple as a single-color Rubik's Cube, but behind his dopey feline exterior, Stimpy is a naive soul with a heart of some precious metal. Not gold, of course. Maybe palladium or iridium? No, not that. We've got it. Rhenium. Yeah, that seems right. A heart of rhenium. Yes, it is so a thing. Just look it up, you troglodytes. Sheesh. A 7-inch scale, highly articulated Ren and Stimpy Ultimates figure of Stimpson J. Cat features premium sculpting and decoration, interchangeable heads and hands, as well as a number of detailed accessories. Just before we begin, does anybody happen to have any questions they want to ask Dr. Stupid? Anybody? Anybody? Either way, I've passed around some blank index cards. Feel free to write down your questions during the course of this review. We'll see if you can answer them at the end. Grabbing the tape measure so we can see how tall the new Ren and Stimpy Ultimates Stimpy stands. Taking it right to, should we go to the top of his hair? Does that sound like a good idea? I hope that's not a stupid question. Okay, we'll do that. With the hair included, Stimpy stands just a little over 6.5 inches in height, or the figure's 17 centimeters tall. I found Stimpy here, the same place where I found Ren, over at Entertainment Earth. These have now started to show up over at Entertainment Earth and various online sites as well. If you guys are interested and haven't had any chance, any luck whatsoever to find these in the wild, I'll put the link down below to both Ren and Stimpy over on Entertainment Earth's website. In the meantime, though, you can see what Stimpy looks like compared to Ren. Obviously, like in the cartoon, Stimpy's going to be a lot taller than Ren. I've now also decided to settle on this version of Ren with his big, crazy-looking smile on his face. Obviously, if I did want to change out the head, it would make him just a little bit tad taller, but bigger and a bulkier build is still Stimpy still. Moving what's left of our attention over to the accessories that come included with the figure. Stimpy, unlike Ren, sorry Ren, I know he's still looking at me right now. Stimpy, unlike Ren, comes with a lot more accessories, and I think a lot more things you'd recognize right away from the episodes. Unfortunately, in both the cases, neither of them come included with log. It rolls downstairs, and loner in pairs, it rolls over your neighbor's dog. Everybody knows the song of log. Doesn't come included with either one of these figures. Now, at one point, I had collected also the Palisades Ren and Stimpy. All those figures actually came included with their own corresponding logs. I hope that's something that we might see in future releases from Super 7. I don't unfortunately have either one of those Ren and Stimpy figures anymore. The reviews are still up if you guys wanted to check them out. But my Stimpy suffered horrible breaks. Maybe talk about that a little bit more when we look at Super 7's release here. In the meantime, though, let's have a look at the accessories that come included with this. First of which, Stimpy comes included with a giant litter box. I can safely say it looks like it's already been cleaned prior to this review. You can see as well, it's got Stimpy carved actually into the plastic versus actually been printed in there. He's got footprints already lodged into the plastic itself, so it's quite easy, in fact, just to take the figure and put him inside the litter box. Normally, cats, I can speak from example, normally cats don't stand in a litter box like this. They tend to squat a little bit more. Now, speaking of that Palisades Stimpy, yes. At one point, I reviewed those guys one time already. I had planned to go back and re-review them. We're talking like years ago. And Stimpy, the thing about that figure was that he had the option to sit, not stand, sit inside his litter box. But what it involved, though, was you had to take the legs and remove them from the rest of his body. You had to take these off. And taking them off wasn't so much the problem, because then you could just sit him inside the litter box. It was putting the feet back on, because there was nothing to hold on to. Ultimately, when pushing it in, it fractured and snapped the knee on the one side, and even ended up snapping the knee on the other side. So I ended up just having a broken Stimpy that could only do really to sit inside his litter box, and that was about it. This one, you don't even have to take the legs and remove them, because he's only going to be standing inside the litter box. It's a lot of litter, by the way, and litter boxes you tend to want to have only about 3/4 full. Full like this, the cat's just going to knock it all over the place. Again, I speak from example, not from using a litter box myself, but having and owning cats. So that's one thing he comes included with. That's nice. That's a nice touch to see. We're going to go ahead and move the litter box out of the way. Actually, speaking of litter, can we talk about litter for a little bit? The figure comes included with gritty kitty litter. I think that's a nice thing that they also included with this. Now, the gritty kitty litter part is actually raised lettering, or actually could be even carved into the plastic. It's certainly not just printed in there. And of course, Stimpy at one point was the spokesperson for gritty kitty litter. It stays crispy even in milk. I do like the way the bag sags. Happens to all of us as we get a little older in age. There's also some stitch lines down the sides of the bag. Nice color really overall. And what it may not look like it would be able to stand on its own, the bag in fact does stand on its own. I'm going to be probably likely displaying that along with the litter box, which is just off to the side right now. As for the other things that come included with the figure, he comes with a rubber nipple hat. Now, Stimpy happens to have a rubber nipple hat the same way that Ren does. Now, to look at them, the only way that I can really tell that one is Stimpy and one is Ren's is that Stimpy noticeably has a larger nipple. You can insert your comments now. The bottom of it, however, though, still has the same hole, although the hole is a little bit bigger on Stimpy's. You can take the hat, and we just take the figure here, and watch for the tiny little sprigs of hair that he has. Just kind of tuck that in there. And obviously, the reasoning why they went with a larger hole is so it's going to fit a lot better over the hairs. It does survive tipping it to the side. Does it survive tipping it upside down? It does, for only probably a short time. Those curious, can you actually use Ren's? Ren's you really can't, just because the hole is way too small, and I really would not want to break one of the hairs. I mean, he only has 3 of them after all. The figure also comes included with a wish, a bone, a fish bone. I was going to say wishbone. A fish bone, or fish skeleton. This can be fit in his hands, not really the extra hands that he comes included with, but these defaulted hands, you can actually take the fingers, pry them a little bit away, or you can kind of take also the tail of the fish and sort of just guide it in there. Enough at least that Stimpy can hold the fish. Now, I've noticed already with this figure that his shoulders are a little loose, especially this side right here. So I don't know why I would decide to have it displayed on this side. They are a little loose. And I'm sure the longer I have his arm up like this, the more looseness it may start to develop. The fish, the wishbone, looks really nice, actually. In fact, you can see the big smile on his face. If fish do have smiles, I guess they do. You can also see as well they painted the pupils in red, or painted the irises in red. So that's one other thing that comes included with the figure. Then on to what I feel to be the more fun aspects of the figure. And you'll probably, if you are a fan of the Ren and Stimpy cartoon, may start to point out these extra accessories right away. First of all, the figure comes included with a nose goblin. I chuckle even just by saying nose goblin. Yeah, sadly, though, the nose goblin seems a little sad. Why so sad? Oh, it's okay, buddy. It's okay. You'll pick a better one later. A little upside down smile, although if you turn it this way, it looks like he is smiling. You can see as well, he's got big googly eyes. He almost kind of looks a little like a Muppet from Sesame Street. It's all been done here using a translucent yellowish green plastic. Not that I could really move my finger behind it and you'd be able to see it, but it is more of a translucent variety. On to one of my favorite things that come included with this. The figure comes included with Stinky. Stinky being, by the way, the little tiny fart cloud that comes included with the figure. There is an episode, in fact, that actually, I think his name was Stinky, ends up leaving the house, and Stimpy has to go around looking for him. And in fact, I do recall that was the same episode. I think he's talking to the nose goblins, and he says, has anybody seen Stinky? He came out of my butt. And the nose goblins, I believe, are talking to one another, and they say, he's talking about a fart. Funny episode. Stinky, his little fart cloud, as you can see, has been all done again in a translucent plastic, but this one is actually orange instead of the yellow. This one has a display stand that you can technically remove, but there really isn't any place where you can actually put the fart cloud, so it's always going to have to really be attached to the display stand instead. Tons of cool accessories. On to kind of like the less interesting things. The figure comes included with a bunch of hands. Again, like these hands don't, from what I can see, serve any real purpose. I mean, these one kind of are gripping hands, so I guess to some extent you can actually have him look like he's hugging the gritty kitty litter. The other hands he also comes included with is what I would describe as the happy, happy, joy hands. As basically they're just fanned out fingers, colored quite brightly, in fact, with sort of a neon yellow. And these simply just plug into his existing hands or existing forearms. Just go ahead and grab the hand and remove it carefully from the ball joint. But as we looked at already with Ren, the ball joint is attached to the arm. So you don't have to worry about the ball joint coming out of his hand by mistake. Then just pop the hands in. There's one. We'll do the exact same thing here on the other side. Just pop that out. Let's go ahead and put in some happy, happy, joy, joy hands. See if I can get it in completely on the other side there. There we go. So those are fun hands. Ren doesn't really come with hands like that, but I guess he kind of comes with relaxed hands. So I guess you could do that and display him with that as well. The last thing he comes included with, you may have already noticed that he comes with half a face. The face does swap out. It's actually a lot easier than I expected it to be. This face has much more exaggerated features, exaggerated expression, you could say. He does have a big tongue sticking out, big now visible teeth that aren't visible on the default. And it, like eye-wise, it doesn't look like it's that much different. If you wanted to change the head out, probably these aren't the greatest of hands to be using then. Let's, you know what, let's just pop these back out. Pop the new hands, or the original hands at least, back in. There we go. And do the same thing on the other side. Do bear with me for a second. There we go. Yeah, those are going to be easier hands, going to be less likely to get in the way. Before we actually just change out the head, I did want to show you guys what the defaulted head looks like. Kind of a dopey looking Stimpy. He's got the little tongue, of course, sticking out from the side. The nostrils are about the only thing I wish that they could have actually painted in black. I suppose I probably could technically go in there with a marker and just color them in myself. And I'd have black nostrils. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to be able to see it really that much from the front, but yeah, painted those in would be nice. The coloring is actually really good on this figure. The plastic, again, feels pretty good. Good, solid, hard plastic. Some of the hands, for example, feel a little on the more gummier side, but again, I really haven't had any problems with the Ren and Stimpy figure yet, and Stimpy being obviously the thicker of the two figures, like really no issues other than maybe I could say just a little loose in the arms. That's about it. If you did want to change the head, like I did say, it was a lot easier than I was expecting. Just kind of just grab it onto the side and just break them. I don't want to even say break. Break's not a good word. Maybe even easier to hold it from the cheeks. Just wiggle it off. It's jarring right away when the first time you do it because you realize you just removed the front face, the whole face of Stimpy. And you can kind of see the way it connects on the inside of it. It kind of leaves like a very barren shell. You imagine if somebody just had that displayed on their shelf with no face at all for Stimpy. That's a friend you probably would want to reconsider friendship with. But go ahead, and we're just going to take the head. I mean, obviously, the little ledges of plastic here on the top and down the sides actually just fit inside the little canals here on the sides of the face. This part of his face, obviously, is a lot heavier than the back of his body. And then we just go ahead, fit the two together. Make sure everything's lined up, of course. And then you're just going to force them. Again, I don't want to use the word force, but force them together. Now, one thing I did notice with this head, it seemed a little harder to line everything up. I don't know really why, but this ends up what you get for the Stimpy figure. And again, just to look at the defaulted head, I like this one, but I like this one a lot more. And again, when it comes to displaying the figures, though I'm not sure, still not decided yet, at least when it comes to displaying how I'm going to display Ren, I'm definitely going to be displaying Stimpy with the open mouth instead. For the articulation here on Stimpy, let's go ahead and pick the figure back up here. He's going to be a little bit more limited than Ren because, of course, he's doing away with top articulation at all for a head. His head essentially is his entire body. But he does have at least successfully a hinge joint on his shoulders. So you can bring the shoulders out, although on this figure, it's weird that they're loose this way, but they're not loose necessarily bringing those arms out. You can bring them out, but this one arm's very tight. I think I might even just go later with that with a hairdryer, run a few passes just to heat that up a little bit. But his arms do come out, I would say comfortably 90 degrees. Take the arms, of course, you can rotate them all the way around. The hands, just by the way that they're plugged in, rotate also all the way around. Figure has articulation here on the tops of his thighs. And as well, the figure also does have articulation in the feet. I don't really think he necessarily needed it, but Super 7 decides to throw that in there anyways. Nice looking figure. Unlike the Ren, where I sort of critiqued the fact that the figure didn't come with what I thought to be crucial accessories. Again, like the plate of the pork faces, was that really a necessary thing? I think there's so many better options that they could have certainly chosen for Ren. Stimpy, I feel, makes up for it with better accessories. Ones of which I recognize right away from, honestly, some of my favorite episodes of Ren and Stimpy. I do think, if anything, there's room for improvement, not necessarily with the figures themselves. The plastic is good. The articulation is where it counts. I think, if anything, future releases, because I think there's definitely opportunities to still use these same molds, maybe a Dr. Stupid version of Stimpy down the road, different heads and different things that they wear in the cartoon. There's always options, I think, to reuse some more mileage out of this mold. Ren is the thing I think I really would like to see a future release for, with an angry expression. Stimpy is pretty good the way he is, although, again, there's always opportunities down the road to release these guys with brand new accessories, including the log, which unfortunately wasn't present with either one of these releases. And here in final looks, Stimpy seems quite happy to have finally found his little tiny toot Stinky. That was the name of the character. I do like the way that they've actually included both Stinky and the little tiny nose goblin. I might have even just said he didn't even need necessarily the fishbone, and they could have used the plastic instead for Muddy Mudskipper, but I suspect that Muddy Mudskipper likely would have used more plastic than was already dedicated to the fishbone. Maybe if they had just given up on them, I don't want to say the rubber nipples heads, the hats, because I think those are also nice things to come include with the figures. I say all these things that would have been nice to come include with either one of these figures, the Ren and the Stimpy we looked at in this review, but honestly, I think there's also leaving much wiggle space, open room for Super 7 down the road to release second versions of both Ren and Stimpy. Stimpy would be the easiest to change, especially when it comes to facial expressions, the different looks on his face, because simply you would just be able to detach, keep the body on the back the same, and just have different swappable plates that just snap into place as we saw in this review. There's lots of mileage I definitely think that they can make out of this series. Not only other characters from the Ren and Stimpy cartoon, but even just Ren and Stimpy themselves, giving us different expressions, different accessories, and again, as mentioned, ever crucially including Log. Different versions of Log. I would like to get the Log that has the beard, because I always thought that that looked the most like me. If I was to try to describe myself as the way a Log would look, it's the one that has the beard. That's my favorite Log. But what do you guys think of Ren and Stimpy here? And of the two figures, which one do you think was handled better? Stimpy, I would say, does do better with accessories. I kind of like the look of Ren too, and I would honestly be torn just to pick out one from the other. If you're going to be buying Ren, you're likely going to be picking up Stimpy and vice versa. You wouldn't want to, I can't imagine you would only just want to be buying one without leaving the other one behind. But if you guys are interested and would like to pick up both Ren and Stimpy for yourselves, I think as far as I know, it's available still over on Entertainment Earth's website. So if you guys, again, are interested and would like to get them, you can click the links down below in the video description. Also, as well, if you enjoyed this video, want to hit with a like. If you're loving the content you guys are seeing and certainly do want to stick around for more, then yes, make sure you're hitting the subscribe button down below. And yes, equally yes, make sure you're turning on the bell notification so you're getting reminders every single time a new video is going to be popping up. And you never know, speaking of popping up, we may also be looking at some other Super 7 reviews in the not-so-distant future. So make sure you're keeping your peepers peeled to this channel. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.